Dear viewers, you are watching the International Weather News Bulletin. Early this morning local time, the Caribbean Sea and the wider Atlantic region continued to record notable changes related to both seismic activity and large-scale meteorological developments. While many countries around these waters are preparing for a week of volatile weather conditions, a relatively shallow tremor just off the coast of Venezuela caused residents on the islands of Aruba, Curaçao and Bonaire to feel it clearly. At the same time, on the sea surface in the northern Caribbean, a large, moist rain band is forming and moving toward Bermuda, threatening to bring a prolonged spell of bad weather accompanied by strong winds and rough seas. All of these developments are attracting the attention of international meteorological agencies as well as people living in the region. First, let us review the seismic event that occurred last night. According to regional monitoring centers, an earthquake of about 4.5 magnitude on the Richter scale, at a depth of only about 10 kilometers, occurred near the offshore area north of Venezuela. Although this is not a very large magnitude compared with global seismic standards, the fact that it occurred at such a shallow depth caused the tremor to propagate more strongly and be felt very clearly on three of the Caribbean's famous tourist islands, Aruba, Curaçao, and Bonaire. At locations closest to the epicenter, some residents reported feeling a brief shaking, not long-lasting but strong enough to cause household objects to move slightly. Fortunately, up to this point, there have been no reports of significant material damage. However, this remains a reminder that the southern rim of the Caribbean lies close to tectonic fault zones, and seismic activity can occur at any time. Monitoring agencies have said they will continue to track the situation to promptly detect any aftershocks, ensuring timely information for residents and tourists. While the aftershocks have not completely subsided, the skies over the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean have recorded another notable meteorological phenomenon. Through multispectral satellite imagery over the past 12 hours, experts have observed a large, moist cloud band stretching from the southern Florida area across the Bahamas and then heading straight up toward Bermuda. This rain band, although not a clearly organized tropical cyclone or low-pressure system, carries very abundant moisture from the subtropical seas, combined with a weakening cold front gradually shifting southward. This interaction generates a thick cloud mass that continuously draws in moisture and is capable of producing heavy rainfall over an extended period. Initial estimates indicate that Bermuda could receive 70–80 millimeters of rain today and tonight, accompanied by strong gusts that may exceed 70 kilometers per hour, and possibly higher at times of intense convergence. Wave models also indicate that the seas around Bermuda will shift into a rough state, with wave heights ranging from 2.54 meters depending on the time. This means commercial shipping routes, fishing vessels and tourist boats in the North Atlantic region should carefully consider their schedules over the next 24–48 hours. Even in the absence of any sign of cyclone formation, this type of rain and wind system can still pose significant risks to maritime activities. In the western Atlantic, satellite imagery shows northerly and northeasterly winds beginning to strengthen along the coast from Florida down to the Bahamas. The cause is a shallow, low-level cold air mass, not particularly strong but sufficient to change the wind pattern. This air mass slightly lowers nighttime temperatures over the northern Bahamian islands, and at the same time creates favorable conditions for northeasterly winds to spread toward Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. This is a common pattern during transitional seasons when cold air masses from North America begin to move southward in weak pulses. Looking deeper into the Caribbean region, we can see that in the eastern part of the archipelago, easterly winds will gradually pick up in the second half of the week. This means that the seas in this area will see more frequent and stronger short waves, directly affecting shipping corridors between the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, which are considered important gateway routes in the Caribbean Sea. Meanwhile, over the Central American mainland and neighboring islands, showers are becoming more frequent and unevenly distributed. Overall, moist air from the sea moves inland and interacts with the hilly terrain along Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, making it easier for convective clouds to develop, producing showers to moderate rain and sometimes heavy localized downpours. In particular, Guatemala, Belize, and northern Honduras may see rainfall totals exceeding 70 millimeters, possibly higher in forested and mountainous areas where steep terrain accelerates the convergence of moist air. The risk of localized flooding and minor flash floods cannot be ruled out, especially in the late afternoon and evening, when surface temperatures drop quickly. Eastern countries such as Guyana and Suriname are also facing heavy rainfall due to a weak tropical convergence band active just offshore. Some rain gauges in the region report that expected rainfall totals may exceed 100 millimeters, meaning the risk of urban flooding and overflowing water in low-lying areas will increase. Because this region has low-lying terrain, with many communities near rivers and coastal swamps, just a few hours of heavy rain can cause water levels to rise rapidly. On major islands such as Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and the Cayman Islands, the weather in the coming days is forecast to follow a sun and showers pattern. For most of the day, conditions will be generally dry, but short, sometimes very heavy. Showers can arrive suddenly. This mechanism arises from the interaction between steady easterly winds and small convective cloud clusters forming offshore. In Jamaica, particularly the area around Kingston, a single intense downpour lasting 30 minutes can produce rainfall totals exceeding 20-30 millimeters, resulting in fast-flowing runoff on many urban roads. Meanwhile, the Eastern Caribbean island chain, including Antigua, Barbuda, St. Martin, Dominica, Grenada, and Martinique, is expected to maintain a lower chance of rain at around 20-30%, though brief showers can still occur during the day. While not long-lasting, such showers often cause sudden reductions in visibility for local aviation and tourist ferry routes. The Trinidad and Tobago area, located closer to the equator, continues to experience mostly cloudy conditions, sometimes with overcast skies persisting through the day. The island's rain probability hovers around 40%, with showers focusing mainly in the late afternoon, when warm, humid air has accumulated enough to trigger convection. Looking at the wider picture across the Caribbean, Central America, North Atlantic, it is clear that over the next 48 hours, the most complex weather scenario is centered around Bermuda, where the moist rain band will continue to move and directly impact conditions. As this system gradually shifts to the northeast, the seas around Bermuda and the stretch of water connecting the Bahamas, Florida, the Bay of Campeche, will see periods of rough seas, large waves and gusty winds, along weaker frontal zones that are being influenced by cooler air from the north. Maritime forecast models also show that by the weekend, shipping lanes in the Atlantic passageways, an important marine corridor between the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, may shift into a choppy to rough sea state. This describes confused, short, high waves that are difficult to anticipate, impacting small fishing vessels, tourist boats, and high-speed marine transport. Based on temperature, humidity, and wind direction data, experts assess that although there are no signs of tropical cyclone development in the short term, the Caribbean region should still closely monitor the moist bands descending from the Atlantic, especially as strengthening easterly winds can bring localized heavy rainfall. At this time, no area in the Caribbean Sea or Atlantic Ocean has been issued an alert for potential storm or tropical depression formation in the coming days. However, complexity is always latent within convergence bands, especially when they interact with cold air or strong winds aloft. Therefore, meteorological centers continue to maintain continuous monitoring, particularly in the waters north of the Bahamas, where northerly and northeasterly winds may generate widespread rough sea conditions. Dear viewers, to conclude today's bulletin, we would like to summarize the main points. First, the 4.5 magnitude tremor off the coast of Venezuela was clearly felt in Aruba, Curaçao, and Bonaire, but did not cause significant damage. Second, a large moist rain band is heading toward Bermuda, with expected rainfall totals of 70-80 millimeters, accompanied by strong winds and high waves, leading to a prolonged spell of bad weather. Third, many parts of the Caribbean and Central America will continue to see showers to moderate rain, with some areas experiencing heavy rain. Localized flooding risks are present in Belize, Guyana, and Suriname. Fourth, strengthening easterly and northeasterly winds are causing rough seas in the Bahamas, Florida, and Yucatan, especially over the next 48 hours. And finally, no new tropical cyclone has been detected, but complex meteorological developments require authorities and residents to continue monitoring closely. Thank you for accompanying us in today's International Weather News Bulletin. We will continue to provide regular updates as new developments arise. We wish you a peaceful day and look forward to seeing you again in upcoming bulletins.